Washington sees few hopeful signs as clocks tick toward war. In the rainy desert, troops prepare for action. And Gorbachev says he did not order the violence in Lithuania. This is the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. With little more than 24 hours left now before the deadline for Iraq to get out of Kuwait, neither the United States nor Iraq showed any sign today of veering off their collision course to war. One more last hour's peace initiative is in the works tonight, this one from France, but both President Bush and Saddam Hussein were insisting that the other must yield to open the way for any possible diplomatic solution. White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews begins our coverage.
Dan, the White House said flatly today that the United States could expect to go to war at any time and that the President had decided to commit U.S. forces to military action at any time after the January 15th deadline. In fact, spokesman Marlin Fitzwater today said that any moment after January 15th is quote-unquote borrowed time. From here, it is not that the President has lost all sense of hope for a peaceful solution. It's just that there are no hopeful signs.
The grim White House mood notably worsened today, especially in light of the failure of the UN Secretary General's peace mission to Baghdad.
You have an expression in English, you need two for tango. And then I wanted very much to dance, but I didn't find any nice lady for dancing with.
Still, reports from the UN tonight suggest one last attempt at a diplomatic miracle. According to the Iraqis, French Foreign Minister Roland Dumas is likely to go to Baghdad to discuss any sign of movement. The French initiative may employ a so far unsuccessful formula, an Iraqi withdrawal in return for promises of a Mideast peace conference.
We believe France, perhaps better than many other permanent members of the Security Council, to really work out a constructive solution to the problems in the Middle East.
Mr. Bush still welcomes all peace initiatives, but still scorns the idea of giving Saddam anything, even promises, in return for his surrender of Kuwait. Warning against diplomatic missions that may come too late, spokesman Marlin Fitzwater said, "We discourage everyone from going to Baghdad after the 15th. Underscoring that warning, the president told congressional leaders late tonight he's made no final decision to attack Saddam Hussein, but to be ready soon after the deadline.
I believe his exact words were, I haven't changed my view. Force may well have to be used if he hasn't withdrawn by the deadline.
Now, late this afternoon, the president formally signed the congressional authorization that allows him to take action tomorrow night. And while there is no guarantee of any early action, the president at the very least is threatening that as much to put Saddam off balance as he is to warn the American public to expect the worst. Dan?
Wyatt Andrews, thanks. Arab diplomats from Algeria and Yemen arrived in Baghdad today trying to find a possible opening for peace. They found Saddam Hussein and his government giving every indication of being hell-bent for a holy war. Alan Pizzi is in Baghdad.
The chant is standard, with blood, with soul we sacrifice for Saddam. And then the Iraqi parliament unanimously endorsed their leader's hardline stand, no retreat from Kuwait. The 250-member rubber stamp assembly held a special session to back a jihad or holy war to keep Kuwait and throw the U.S. and its Arab allies out of the region. But a tiny window was left open for peace. The resolution called on Saddam to do whatever was necessary to preserve the dignity and security of Iraq and the Arab nation. Last night, Saddam told Iraqis they might have to die for their principles and ordered that the Islamic war cry of "God is great" should be embroidered on the Iraqi flag. The speaker called it an historic showdown and echoed Saddam's assertion that Iraq wanted peace, that it was up to the West to make the next move. But in the cold light of dawn today, diplomats were moving out. The Turks had wanted to be the last to go. They weren't.
It's just a precautionary measure, as all the other embassies did. That's why we are leaving also.
The airport was congested with people trying to get out before the deadline, which is less than 36 hours away. Some Iraqis sent families to what they hope will be safer rural areas. Those staying taped windows against bomb blasts. The mood here is decidedly pessimistic. Iraqis seem resigned to war, one they know will be horrific beyond anything they have ever seen. A diplomat here described the civilians as helpless victims who bore no responsibility for their leaders' actions. Tomorrow has been designated the Day of Challenge. Iraqis will answer the deadline for war with what officials are claiming will be the biggest demonstrations in the country's history. And the cry will be jihad, jihad, holy war, holy war. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Baghdad.
60 Minutes correspondent Mike Wallace talked with Javier Perez de Cuellar as the UN Secretary General was flying back to New York today following his talks with Saddam Hussein. And Mike is here with us at CBS News headquarters now. Mike?
Dan, I think the United Nations Secretary General was shaken, maybe even bewildered by what he saw in Baghdad in his 2.5 hours with Saddam Hussein. He said, "I saw a man who was serene. A psychological serenity is what I felt in him. He was polite, considerate, articulate. He asked for nothing. He was a charmeur," said the Secretary General, a charmer. What does he want, I asked. A dialogue with the United States, with Europe. What is he prepared to give? Nothing, he said, Dan.
Now, he also spent 4 hours with President Bush, the UN Secretary General. Any sense of what President Bush is like at this moment?
He said, "I sensed an anxiety in George Bush, a responsible anxiety." And he went on, "He's a man of peace. He would prefer not to press the button, but he is prepared to press the button." I came back to Saddam. "Why is Saddam so serene?" I asked. Perez de Cuellar smiled wanly. "Perhaps we should go to a psychiatrist," he said. "Does he understand the deadline?" "I'm sure he does." And then he said, "I don't see any decent room for diplomacy. He has decided to keep what he can."
Thanks, Mike. Results of the latest CBS News New York Times poll out this evening indicate many Americans do not expect any war in Iraq to be a short one. 2/3 of the people we polled said that if war breaks out, they expect it to last at least several months. Half said they expect more than 5,000 Americans to die in combat. 62% said they felt a war this long and with this many casualties would not be worth it. The poll indicates Americans remain evenly divided about whether the U.S. should move quickly against Saddam Hussein after January 15th. Whatever the public expects, the Pentagon battle plan is, of course, to take out Iraq as quickly as possible with as few U.S. casualties as possible. Still, top U.S. military planners in the Gulf acknowledge that not all U.S. forces are in place and yet battle ready. Our Defense Department correspondent David Martin has a report.
Despite the president's suggestion that we'll go to war sooner rather than later after tomorrow's deadline, there is still a significant gap in the Pentagon's preparations. Elements of 2 tank divisions are still arriving in Saudi Arabia, and it will be the end of the month before they are all in the field and ready for combat.
I believe the military would like some time to get these heavy armored divisions that have just arrived in from Europe, get them ready to go and to make the attack.
Naval forces are also still moving into position. The aircraft carrier Roosevelt passed through the Suez Canal today. Tomorrow, the carrier America will transit the Suez, giving the U.S. a total of 6 carriers targeted against Saddam Hussein. It will take a few days for the pilots to familiarize themselves with the flying conditions, but the military will be prepared to launch airstrikes very soon after the January 15th deadline expires.
I would submit that sometime between the 20th of January and the 15th of February, the war is going to start.
Air raids would precede any ground offensive, and today a study of the Iraqi military released by the Army War College listed these high-priority targets: Saddam's headquarters, Scud missile sites, air defenses, and the 2,700 artillery pieces in the Kuwaiti theater. That same study also said, quote, "We do not think air power alone will suffice to bring a war with Iraq to an early or decisive conclusion. In the final analysis, ground forces will be required." But these anti-war demonstrations could convince the president he is in danger of losing public support and cannot afford to wait for all the preparations for a ground offensive to be completed. Going to war is a decision made by civilians, not generals. And sometime within the next few days, the president will have to make an agonizing decision that balances the Pentagon's preparedness against his own political instincts. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, Bob Simon and Bill McLaughlin on last-minute preparations in the Middle East as we continue our coverage of the countdown to confrontation.
Know where I am? I'm at one of the finest resorts in the world. I love it because everything is right here. I can relax in the sun, eat marvelous food, enjoy a room with an ocean view. There's fabulous entertainment, friendly service, and it's all included in the price. But what makes this resort really fun is that it takes me to some of the world's other great vacation spots. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day fun ship vacation on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
Hello. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm having a dinner party and I've run out of coffee.
Come in.
Thank you.
I'll just a minute. Would Taster's Choice be too good for your guests?
Oh, I think they could get used to it.
It's a very sophisticated coffee.
They have very sophisticated taste.
Do they?
Yes. Well, I must be getting back.
Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
So, have you met your new neighbor yet? Oh, I've popped in for coffee.
I have rich taste. I love the rich flavor of Sunsweet pitted prunes. Plump, tender, irresistibly sweet. I can almost taste them. Good idea. Only one prune tastes Sunsweet.
On the eve of the January 15th deadline, preparations and practice in the sand are the orders of the day for U.S. and allied forces in Saudi Arabia. Correspondent Bob Simon is with them.
It looked busier than O'Hare on a Monday morning. Hundreds of aircraft, thousands of personnel on a base playing host to the largest strike force under a single command in modern times. Wild weasels flown by Marines are made to ferret out missiles and radar and clear the skies. These pilots will be the vanguard.
Our job is to go in there ahead of the fighters, ahead of the other supporting airplanes, and knock out those anti-aircraft guns and surface-to-air missiles and the surveillance radars.
On the ground, there was sound and fury signifying perhaps final live-fire exercises. Marine reservists just arrived in Saudi Arabia were trying out their M16s for the first time. Next door, the desert silence was broken by the blast of 155mm howitzers.
Fire!
Marines who'd spent the summer praying for rain now saw their dreams coming true with a vengeance. And that wasn't the only change. What was different now was the adrenaline and the urgency. The men could hear those chimes at midnight.
I just try not to think about it. I'm scared about it.
We're beyond worried. We're not really worried anymore.
There's a lot of tension in the air around here. Everybody's real anxious.
In the British aisle of the theater, clouds of dust had settled into a water-pocked desert, making them feel quite at home in their unflappable personalities.
There is a very slight feeling of tension in the air, but we're well trained and we're ready to react to whatever tasks might be placed upon us.
And all over the theater, more tanks and troops kept moving further north, towards the front, towards war. Bob Simon, CBS News, Saudi Arabia.
Israel put its armed forces on their highest state of alert today. Iraq has repeatedly threatened to make Israel its first target in a war, and as Bill McLaughlin reports, both Jews and Arabs are taking that threat seriously.
They came to Jerusalem's sacred Wailing Wall in the thousands, one of the biggest gatherings in memory. They came to do what Jews have done on the eve of battle for thousands of years. They prayed for God's help and for God's strength. But Israelis have never relied on the power of prayer alone. Their Air Force is on full alert. Pilots are reportedly sitting in their cockpits around the clock. Key reserve units have been called up to deal with a host of threats, including terrorism.
For the moment, Israel's hands are tied. This weekend, to avoid upsetting the U.S. Arab coalition, Washington asked Israel not to launch a preemptive strike against Baghdad. Israel has agreed to absorb the first blow, in effect, play the role of sitting duck. But it's vowed to strike back if attacked.
We know that once we inject ourselves into the conflict in this other way, that may confuse the entire coalition.
The army handed out gas masks to Jewish settlers in the occupied Arab territories today, but gave none to their Palestinian neighbors. Israel's Supreme Court denounced that as scandalous and ordered that gas masks be given to everyone. Palestinians were already buying plastic sheets to seal houses and public buildings, preparing for the worst. It looked as if doomsday had already come to one Tel Aviv neighborhood today. The area sealed off as hundreds of soldiers, medical personnel, and volunteers rehearsed the emergency drill for dealing with the victims of a chemical warfare attack. The unthinkable is now a distinct possibility. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Stay with us now for more news, including what Gorbachev's tanks and troops are doing to the freedom movement in Lithuania.
In time, all definitions must be revised. But when it came to redefining luxury, it wasn't a Webster, it was Oldsmobile, the all-new 98. Now you can have anti-lock brakes, fuel-efficient power, computerized suspension, technology found in cars costing thousands more, which by my definition could be the greatest luxury of all. And you can always take a Webster at his word.
This is the new 98, luxury redefined. Generation of Olds.
The day may come when all dishwashers will get your dishes sparkling clean and run quietly enough to let you talk on the phone. But isn't it nice to know Whirlpool Quiet Wash dishwashers will do it today?
Painful sore throat and no Chloraseptic spray? That's okay. Chloraseptic lozenges actually work like the spray to penetrate nerve endings and stop pain fast. Great tasting Chloraseptic lozenges. Fast relief when you're away from your spray.
Eggnog, mashed potatoes and gravy, Santa cookies, Aunt Wilma's bundt cake.
The average American
turkey
can gain 4 to 7 pounds during the holidays,
candy canes,
and you're probably one of them.
Sweet potatoes.
So include the Kellogg's Special K breakfast in your New Year's diet.
Dip.
And get the scale moving in the right direction.
Fruitcake, fruitcake, fruitcake.
Kellogg's Special K. Lose the holiday fat.
Tonight, will we go to war with Iraq? Dan Rather joins Charles Kuralt and Leslie Stahl as the deadline expires on a special edition of America Tonight.
Mikhail Gorbachev said today that he had no advanced knowledge of the Soviet Army's crackdown that killed 14 people Sunday in Lithuania. But Russian President Boris Yeltsin joined Baltic leaders in charging that this was the start of a Kremlin offensive against the freedom movement. And in Washington, a spokesman for President Bush said the crackdown is further jeopardizing U.S. aid to Moscow and possibly next month's planned summit in the Russian capital. But President Bush has taken no action. Anthony Mason in Moscow begins our report.
In the snowy streets of Vilnius today, Lithuanians lined up to mourn the victims of the Soviet Army attack. Tens of thousands filed past the bodies of 10 of those killed, among them 23-year-old Loreta Asanavichut, crushed to death under the treads of a Soviet tank. But in Moscow, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev was offering no apologies, no explanations, and little sympathy. He told reporters he himself had not ordered the attack, but did not condemn it. In the Supreme Soviet, Defense Minister Dmitry Yazov rose to defend his army. The decision to attack the television station, he said, was made by a local commander. But Lithuanian TV had been broadcasting what he called anti-Soviet, anti-army propaganda. And Yazov claimed the army acted to prevent bloodshed. For many in the Supreme Soviet, that explanation was simply unacceptable.
The conflict was, as a matter of fact, very well planned, very well timed, and provoked.
Many liberal deputies refused to believe the Kremlin did not know about the attack. It doesn't matter who gave the order, said the former Lithuanian prime minister. Gorbachev should have stopped it. But the panic in the Baltics continued to spread. In Latvia, people began barricading the streets of the capital, blockading government buildings with columns of trucks and buses, after the local military commander reportedly demanded that the pro-independence government submit to Soviet power. And in Lithuania, with the army still in the streets, the government doesn't know how long it can hold out. For the rest of my life, said one Lithuanian, I will be wondering why the Soviet Union had to do this to us. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Moscow.
The crackdown has left the Bush administration in a real bind. To show that it condemns such behavior, the White House announced today that next month's Soviet-American summit is now in doubt. But officials here also know they need the Soviets in the Persian Gulf, so the administration officials have been careful not to blame Gorbachev directly.
With respect to the specific question of whether or not, of who ordered this action, I think that's something we need to continue to investigate and monitor.
It's no mystery to Baltic state diplomats here. They charged the crackdown was deliberately timed for when the world would be focused on the Persian Gulf and that Gorbachev had to know.
Well, of course he did. He did know. He did know. It happened around the 15th of January, and it was very well prepared, and they knew what they wanted.
At the Capitol, some theorized it would be worse if Gorbachev hadn't known the assault was being planned.
If he did not know, then one has to ask the question is why on earth would we be seeking to sign an arms control agreement with a man who does not control his military?
On the House floor, where he has been praised so often, there was a torrent of criticism aimed directly at Gorbachev.
You should not be there. You should withdraw. You say you didn't know.
I think Gorbachev should either surrender his Peace Prize or that the Nobel Peace Committee should reclaim it.
And from the Senate's Republican leader, the toughest suggestion of all.
We ought to suspend the export credits, this billion-dollar deal with the Soviet Union for grain, wheat, corn, whatever, until we have a chance to see which direction they're really headed.
But as tough as all the talk was today, the reality is talk is all that will be coming from here about Lithuania, at least until the situation in the Persian Gulf is clearer. Dan?
Thanks, Bob. The U.S. Supreme Court refused today to recognize any constitutional right to own a machine gun. The gun lobby had argued that a 1986 law passed by Congress did not intend to ban such weapons, and that in any case, such a law would violate the constitutional right to bear arms. Supreme Court justices rejected these arguments today without comment. President Bush is nominating White House economist Lawrence Lindsay to be a member of the Federal Reserve Board and nominating current board member David Mullins to be vice chairman of the Fed. This comes as the president is reportedly pressuring for lower interest rates.
Recently, DuPont announced that its energy unit would pioneer the use of new double-hulled oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. DuPont, better things for better living.
Now you can ask Angela Lansbury about Bufferin.
Angela, for a tough headache, is Bufferin really strong aspirin?
Oh my, yes. I've learned extra strength Bufferin has the strongest dose of aspirin you can buy, 1,000 milligrams.
Miss Lansbury, how can Bufferin be so strong if it has buffers?
I wondered myself, till I heard that the buffers don't weaken it. They just help prevent aspirin stomach upset. I depend on Bufferin.
Shouldn't you discover the strength of Bufferin?
They're coming! Dow Bathroom Cleaner with scrubbing bubbles. It's 50% stronger than original Dow Bathroom Cleaner. We work even harder, so you don't have to.
In art, taste is subjective, but in life, good taste is well defined. Fancy Feast gourmet cat food, exceptionally moist and delicious. Fancy Feast. Good taste is easy to recognize.
American voices, the voices of outsiders, outside the White House, outside the halls of Congress, outside the Pentagon, outside the corridors of power anywhere. They are the voices of the people, not of the people who speak in statements, but of people who do speak from the heart. On what could be the eve of battle, Jerry Bowen listened to those American voices.
From the White House gates to the Golden Gate Bridge, with fiery protest in Minneapolis and prayerful vigil in Miami, Americans acknowledged this deadline eve with a mixture of despair, disbelief, and determination.
I don't want anybody to die, but Iraq took something that isn't theirs, and I don't think that's right.
In Minnesota, the Twin Cities Army ammunition plant is running round the clock, shells for tanks and planes in the Gulf. Roger Frakey's son is near the front lines, has told his father, the more ammunition, the better.
Keep everything coming, Dad. He says, we can use everything we can get over here. He says there's an awful lot of troops.
In East Waverly, Texas, where the yellow ribbons of August have been bleached white, Jerry Mayrant's picture joined the gallery in the local cafe this morning. All the town's sons and daughters in the Gulf. more than a score from the struggling farming community of 800, where bravado is mixed with fear.
I supported Vietnam, I supported Grenada, I supported Panama. I'll support the next thing we get into.
To me, all the boys are family. To lose even one life is too devastating to me.
In New York today, service-age young men in investment banker suits voiced support for the cause.
Our troops should be there right now. You know, we have something to protect. That's our oil.
And in Los Angeles, Margarita Duenas worked at her house cleaning job and wondered who will protect her Marine son. 22-year-old William's been in Saudi Arabia since late August.
I don't believe them more. You know, I don't think that it's like feel like sacrificing my son for oil, not blood for oil.
And in Dearborn, Michigan, this deadline eve, there is fear and frustration, too, in the largest Iraqi community in America.
People are sad, are down, are upset.
No blood for oil!
So Americans this night wrestle with conflicting emotions and questions, reluctantly pondering the fear that it's no longer a matter of if, but when the worst will happen. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
American Voices from our world tonight. Less than 2 days before Iraq must leave Kuwait or risk attack. Now, after your late local news tonight, I'll join Charles Kuralt and Leslie Stahl for a special one-hour edition of America Tonight. We'll have late developments, analysis, explanation. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. I'll see you just after your late local news on America Tonight.
So you claim you were getting your oil changed at your GM dealership. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how long did this take?
An hour, hour and a half.
Really? And isn't it true that the GM dealership in question is a Mr. Goodwrench Quick Lube Plus dealer? And isn't it also true that they guarantee a complete GM oil change, lube, and 10-point maintenance check in 29 minutes, or the next one is free?
Your GM dealer is serious about putting service back in the service department, so try Mr. Goodwrench Quick Lube Plus for a change.
In weather this raw, don't take chances, take chapstick. This infrared camera compares lips sealed with chapstick and lips without chapstick. Chapstick seals in moisture to heal and prevent chapped lips. Don't take chances, take chapstick.
When her littlest patient's coughing, it's the biggest thing on Mom's mind. So now there's new cherry-flavored Robitussin Pediatric for long-lasting cough relief. New Robitussin Pediatric Cough Suppressant, recommended by Dr. Mom.
There goes my stomach again. But I've had it up to here with this antacid taste.
Then get great flavor up to here with the rich, fruity taste of extra-strength Malox Plus Cherry Cream. Up to here with the fresh, minty taste of mint cream. And up to here with the zesty lemon taste of lemon Swiss cream. The strongest antacid tastes the best, too. Extra-strength Malox Plus. Strong relief for all your Malox moments.
Malox, you're the best.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Paula Zahn. Tomorrow, the latest from the Middle East.
Then, how to know when your kids are faking illness to avoid school on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.